Matt Miguez has plenty on his mind, and he's ready to share it with the world. It's time to hear the Miguez Mindset.
Welcome into the Miguez Mindset here on a Monday afternoon. Matt Miguez inside the Evco Development Studios, talking about the New Orleans Saints picking up a 26-24 win in preseason week number 1 over the Kansas City Chiefs inside the Caesars Superdome. Look, it was a good performance from the guys that you wanted to see a good performance from. Derek Carr in the offense goes out first, sharp as could be. Michael Thomas gets involved. A.T. Perry gets involved. Michael Thomas with the big catch over the middle of the field. Derek Carr goes 6 for 8 on his opening drive for 70 yards and a touchdown to Keith Kirkwood. Some people may have forgotten that Keith Kirkwood was even still on the team. But nevertheless, 7-0. Saints get the ball back. Jameis Winston comes out, fires a dime to A.T. Perry, who climbs up the ladder, makes the catch, and falls into the end zone for a 29-yard score. Makes it 14-0, at one point 17-0. But then the backups let the Kansas City Chiefs right back into it. 24 unanswered points by the Chiefs. Make it 24-17 lead for Kansas City. Jake Haener leads a comeback drive, tie the game, or should I say, score a touchdown to fall behind 1 point and then botch the 2-point conversion to stay down a point. And then the defense comes up big for you with a crucial interception in the closing moments of the game for Blake Grupe to hit a walk-off game-winning field goal and win the game 26-24. Look, I know preseason doesn't matter, but a couple things that really stood out from this game was the play of Derek Carr. Small sample size, but he looked really efficient, went through his progressions well, was able to read the defense and make some big plays. Alvin Kamara looks healthy. Obviously, he's going to miss the first 3 weeks of the season with a suspension. I was hoping to see more out of Jamal Williams. Was a little underwhelmed with the way that he played. Kendre Miller obviously goes down with the injury. We'll know more about that in the coming days. Defensively, I thought DeMarco Jackson looked good. I thought Peyton Turner looked good in spurts. Overall, I think this is going to be a team that, if they can stay, and I've said this all offseason, if they can stay healthy, you're looking at an 11-6, 12-5 type of football team, in my opinion. I think they've got a pretty easy schedule. I think they're in the weakest division in the NFL, and it could be one of those things where they go 7-10 again, or they could be a 12-5, 11-6 football team that's tops in the NFL. So we'll see which one it's going to be. Obviously, consistency and execution are going to be critical, as well as staying healthy. But again, Derek Carr looked sharp, which was nice to see. You got good spurts out of the running game, which was important. And then defensively, I think you played really well. When the guys that were going to make the most impact on your team this season, your 1s and 2s, were in there, which is what you wanted to see. Now, next Sunday, they'll go on the road to play the Los Angeles Chargers before they come back to the Superdome on the 27th to host the Houston Texans in the final preseason tune-up before their season opener on September 10th against the Tennessee Titans. So again, New Orleans Saints winning 26-24 over the Kansas City Chiefs to be 1-0 in the preseason. Moving on to LSU, they had some player availability the other day. Charles Turner, Sage Ryan, Omar Spates, and Noah Cain all meeting with the media. And Sage Ryan, obviously the Lafayette Christian product, spent some time talking about the wide receiver room for LSU and how talented that they've been so far in camp.
So I play a nickelback in the slot, so I'm going against Aaron Anderson, and Kyron Lacey. Those guys are, the talent speaks for itself. They All-American guys. I feel like we have the best receiver core in the nation. Some people may, I can be biased about that because I'll be going against those guys every day, but they help me perfect my craft each and every day at practice, and that's big for me because I'm not going to face nobody near their talent level all year. So that'll, and Malik Neighbors, he's Malik Neighbors, and Brian Thomas. Those guys are amazing. They help us, perfect our crafts each and every day.
Noah Cain also talked about what he has seen from Logan Diggs, the former Baton Rouge product, who went to Notre Dame with Brian Kelly and is now back in Baton Rouge with the Fighting Tigers of LSU.
Yeah, man, Logan's been great, man. He's been working, he's been adjusting to the offense, man. Of course, he has familiarity with Coach Kelly from Notre Dame, but Logan's has been a guy that's been learning. He's been locked in every day. He's on time, man. He's wanting to get better. He just, wants to make this team better. So Logan's been a guy, man, that's just been locked in from what I've seen, and he wants to get better every day.
This LSU team is going to be interesting in 2023. I mean, Jaden Daniels returns for another year, second best Heisman odds going into the season, top 5 in the AP poll. The backfield is dangerous with Josh Williams, Noah Cain, Logan Diggs. You look at the receiving core, Malik Neighbors, Chris Hilton, Aaron Anderson, Kyron Lacey, tight end weapons with Mason Taylor and Jackson McGowan. And then you look at that defense. I mean, well, before we get to the defense, even the offensive line, all 5 offensive line starters from last year are back. That's a huge issue, or a huge deal, I should say, for LSU, a positive deal for Brian Kelly and the Tigers. And then you look at the defense, Mason Smith, Mekhi Wingo up front. You look in the linebacker, Omar Spates, Harold Perkins Jr. going to make a lot of days difficult for the opposing defenses. And then that secondary. Secondary is probably the group with the most questions across the team. You look at a guy like Deuce Chestnut coming in from Syracuse, Denver Harris coming in from Texas A&M, Zy Alexander coming in from Southeastern Louisiana. Just a lot of new faces, and kind of you have to wait and see what they're going to do before you can make a true judgment about what they're going to do. But man, on paper, there's no reason to not be excited about this LSU football team. I think they've got a strong schedule. I think they've got a strong group. Obviously, the coaching staff stayed the same, made a couple of changes at the special teams spot. But, your key guys, Mike Denbrock, Matt House, Brian Kelly, those guys are still there, and I think that's critical for long-term success. So LSU will be interesting to see. Their opening game is September 3rd in Orlando when they take on Florida State to open the season. Hopefully then get some revenge for that debacle in the Superdome to open the 2022 season. Going to the Louisiana Raging Cajuns, now going to cover all the bases here. With the Cajuns, they had their first scrimmage of fall camp over the weekend. But before the scrimmage went down, we spoke with Michael Desormeaux about, a couple of different things. First week of practice, what are you looking out for throughout the rest of camp, and how he's managed the heat this summer, record-setting type heat in Southwest Louisiana. What's that been like from a camp perspective? But first, we asked him what stood out from that first week of fall camp practice.
I just think it's the intensity level at which they're working. We keep data, player load data and load management data over the course of the last 5 years. The player load, right, which is the capacity they're working at, is through the roof right now. And it's not the format hasn't really changed. It's what they're putting into it. It's how hard they're going. It's them straining their gut and competing every day. So that's what I think when you go back and you look at it. You feel like it's really good out there. When you go back and look at the data, it tells you that you're absolutely getting the effort that you want. And, I said it before, when we ask this team, when things don't go exactly the way you want, the only thing you do is go back to work, put your nose down and just go harder. And we've asked them to do that, and they're doing that. And I think that's what's really impressive is, they're flying around, playing fast and pushing. And that's what we're asking from them right now.
Zylan Perry has been a running back that has stood out for Louisiana in spurts this season. Missed most of last season with an injury. One of the most electrifying players on the roster, maybe one of the better players in the Sun Belt at his position. Michael Desormeaux was asked how he would compare Zylan Perry's skill set.
More Chris Smith. He's got more wiggle probably than what Raymond had. Raymond had elite straight line speed, which Chris was fast. Zylan's fast, but I don't know that I would say it's Raymond. But they've got more wiggle in small spaces. Zylan has the ability to make the first person miss. It's really hard whenever you got to block it exactly right to get yards. I mean, you're talking about 5, 6, 7 guys all on the same page, all communicating, all fitting it properly. And then you're not talking about the defense, who they're getting coached too. They're getting off of blocks. So when you have one that can make the first guy miss, it kind of changes the scope of what you can do on offense. You have more opportunity to get explosive plays, right? Okay, you get them to safety and they can make the guy miss instead of getting dropped for 8. Those types of things change a game. So I would say he's probably more similar to Chris. At this point in his career, I think he's probably got a little bit he's a little more maybe physical, naturally. But Chris was the same way. I mean, Chris played quarterback, corner, I mean, he played all over the place too. But I think that's probably the best comparison is probably Chris.
And then lastly, talking about the heat here in Southwest Louisiana, I mean, record highs almost every single day. From an outside perspective, playing outdoors, trying to create an advantage for yourself here in South Louisiana, Michael Desormeaux was asked how he's managed the heat with his football team.
It's a good question. I think that's something that everybody's trying to manage right now. We've added breaks to the practice, number one. And it's not a big thing, but it's a 5-minute break, right? The difference in practice and the game, you have, you get to the sideline and you've got these breaks in between series that you get to catch your breath. You get to kind of recover a little bit. In practice, you don't, right? And the idea is that practice is harder, but we add a couple more breaks in there. We practice later in the afternoon. We have been outside every day. I think that we as a staff, our training staff, our coaching staff, and our strength staff and our nutritionists work really hard to make sure that we are doing what's right for the kids, but you certainly don't want to take away the advantage that you have. And the heat is our advantage early in the year. So we do go outside every day. We do practice a little bit later than most people do. But I do think that part of it is we do our job and we make sure we're doing things to take care of our players, but we also have to educate them. They've got to do their part. Recovery is active. There's no such thing as passive recovery. So, we're blessed. We've got a great training room with all kind of tools in there for them to use. We have a nutritionist who's on them constantly about hydrating and eating the right thing. So, it's mutual. It's got to go both ways, but the players have to really work hard at it too, and they have. The first couple days, which is typical. You got a couple. You got some guys that cramp up and that are out for the rest of practice and things like that. But after the first couple days, these guys have really handled it well, and I'm proud of them because it takes a certain level of maturity to do that. But they know that whenever we get to September, it is an advantage for us to be in those conditions and to play in those conditions, and we embrace it.
Louisiana will open their season on September 2nd inside Cajun Field when they host Northwestern State and a 6:30 p.m. kickoff. So we've talked Louisiana, we've talked LSU, we've talked the Saints. Football season is finally here. Coming up on Wednesday, we'll dive deeper into football. Also give an update on the Houston Astros and where they're at in their 2023 chase for another World Series title. Subscribe to our social media at ESPN Southwest Louisiana or ESPN_SWLA. And please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Great content coming out as we get closer and closer to football season, and we want to make sure that you don't miss a second of it. So again, at ESPN Southwest Louisiana on YouTube as well. That's going to do it for this episode of the Miguez Mindset. We'll be back on Wednesday talking more football as well as the Houston Astros right here on ESPN 103.7 Lafayette and 104.1 Lake Charles.